The moment is here, you can stop your search. It's Comics by Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch. A lot of people ask, when is it time to move on? Well, clear answer: when the sex isn't good anymore. That's no, I'm kidding. Maybe that's the question that this viewer is asking here in mail. And to be fair, a lot of people ask this question. I mean, I feel like I've done this video a few times. When is it time to move on? I read them, even though it's kind of a similar answer, because I think it's good for everybody. Good for customers who are feeling frustrated and get themselves worked up because they're not happy with what they're getting. It's good for comic companies to hear people who are being open with why they're wanting to move on, why they're frustrated, but also really express why they love these characters. And before we get to the mail, that last piece is really important for people in comics to understand, and that's you built something, or maybe your predecessors. Everybody stands on the shoulders of giants. Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, all of these creators built something that that matters, that caught people's attention, that got their emotions, that got them invested in things. And so when you see people complaining, I saw a creator complaining that 95% of my job sucks because of angry fans, and it's weighing me down. I understand. I understand how these kinds of things hit you. But keep in mind, you're working on things that people have a lot of emotional investment into. So their reactions when there's major changes to those things, it's not as irrational as people portray it. It's actually pretty logical. It's no different than if you lived in a house for your life and then you move to another state, another house. You have fond feelings of nostalgia to that house. You're having to leave it, but it's tough. There's a separation. It may be. Well, I'll put it this way: the litmus test I always have. So I've talked to creators about this, and I usually get one of two answers. I either get somebody going, "Yeah, I totally understand. Yeah, these things, kind of live in your heart, and they're important to us," or I get the reaction of like, "It's not a house; it's just Spider-Man." Yeah, that second reaction tells me you shouldn't be working in comics, quite frankly. It doesn't really matter if it's quote unquote just a cartoon character. It matters. It matters a lot. So let me read this mail. It says, "Hey Perch, comics, Marvel Comics in particular, have been a foundational part of my life. They brought me joy, taught me lessons, inspired me, and of course entertained me. Obviously not all of them. But given that so many have had that positive impact on me, Marvel's current state just pains me. I haven't seriously read comics in years, but I've always tried to keep my ear to the ground in case things shaped up. And lately, I'm just getting the urge to buy comics, but I'm struggling to justify it and find titles I want to commit to and that I enjoy. The question ends up being, to me, when do I quit waiting for comics done the way I like to come back and simply move on? Since the late thousands, I've had it in my mind that eventually things should go back to what used to work, but it will be coming on 2 decades soon, and I find myself wishing for titles with the qualities of ones that made me bail. Continuity has moved so far away from what I personally enjoyed, and outside of a large-scale reboot, I can't see it going back. I want to enjoy comics, specifically from Marvel, like the X-Men, because these are the characters that I'm attached to, but that I love. So do you have any advice besides wait and enjoy the scraps that seep through the cracks?" Again, the thing to take away from that, if you work in comics, is you have somebody who loves comics. And it's easy to say, well, yeah, things move on. There are changes that get made. You don't always get to just keep everything status quo. And I've heard creators, and I get this sentiment, complain about, well, on one hand, the fans are saying, it can't always be the same story over and over again. We desire change. We desire kind of freshness. And then whenever we do something different, then they complain they want things to go back to the way they were. And be honest, you, the listener, person listening to this, you've heard that too. We've seen that sentiment play out. I get it. I get the dynamic there. I think there's an extremely nuanced position, which is you can have kind of classic storytelling and you can still have evolution of characters. They're not mutually exclusive, but there's a little bit of a correlation, is not causation, that comes into effect here, where the comics, you can still be new and different. I mean, the comics through the 70s and 80s had major changes in them, and yet they they still felt tonally the same. They still felt like it was part of a family. So again, I get the way comic creators sometimes feel frustrated with, like, hey, you're telling me one thing and then you're telling me to do something else. I don't like that. Get it? At the same time, I'm very sympathetic, and I agree with the fan perspective that says, I want to enjoy these books. I, I can't. I can't in their current form. I get it. So my advice, for you, the customer, the reader, is certainly I don't think it's good for you. It's not good for anybody to, kind of just sit and wait for things to get better. I don't think that's healthy. I think that, if it's not entertaining you, if you look at it and just find yourself going, this isn't as good as it used to be. Here's one kind of bit of advice. You can just full stop, unplug, and not buy any of the new stuff and just walk away from it. And if it gets better, it's fairly easy to go, to dig back. Yes, you may have to go get 6 months or so of back issues, from when things started getting better or things started getting to something you liked. But have some faith that if you walk away from it and suddenly, comics emerge and it's good, somebody will tell you, a buddy will tell you, somebody online will tell you, somebody will point it out to you, and you'll be able to jump back into it. And that's okay. The other thing I'd say is, if you're having this feeling, don't click on videos that are like, taking my channel alone. If you love the X-Men and you see that I posted a video saying, the Krakoa era is bombing, or, why isn't the Krakoa era better, or something like that, don't watch that video. It's not going to make you feel good. It's just going to reinforce and make you feel, just the same feelings. Just don't click on that. Some commentators are going to talk about comics, and they have the right to do so, and they should do so. But if you're already frustrated with the comic, ask yourself, do you want your opinion reinforced, or do you just want to get kind of pissed off? Because chances are, if you already feel that way and you listen to a video, you might have a little bit of a feeling of, hey, this guy agrees with me. Hey, it feels, some solidarity, camaraderie. That's cool. But mostly you're just going to feel more disillusioned and irritated by these books. Thankfully, I post 8,000 videos, so, you can just click on the next one. You'll be fine. But that's what I would suggest. And then the other thing is, there is, no matter how many comics you've read, there's entire runs, meaning hundreds of issues, that are sitting out there from the past that you've never read. And so, you can get some of those classic feelings. You can get some of those characters. You can discover something new. I've used this before. If you like the X-Men, and particularly like the X-Men in the 70s and the 80s, then the Legion of Superheroes over at DC is sitting over there for you. And even though it seems very different, sci-fi, cosmic kind of stuff versus what the X-Men were up to, the vibe of those books was similar in a lot of ways. And I think, you might find that, again, there's hundreds of issues there for you to read. So you need to tap into something that's going to help you feel good. It is totally fine, by the way, in saying this, because every now and then people like to put words in my mouth. It's totally fine to miss the things that you once loved. It's totally fine to say you miss those things. I'm not telling you, hey, just get over it. Just throw it aside and forget about it and just move on. I'm not telling you that. That would be dumb advice. But I am saying, there are things out there to enjoy, and don't torture yourself. Just stop torturing. And I mean, if you thoroughly hate the current direction of the X-Men, it's not going to get better in the near term. So rather than be very, very frustrated in the hopes that, there'll be kind of a, what'd you say, that crumbs that fall through the cracks? Yeah, that's not a place for you to be. That's nothing that's going to help you feel good. And that's nothing that's going to, renew your love of comics. You're better off just walking away from it. Let somebody tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, actually, there's something good over here. A lot of people had that moment when Hickman first came on and did the House of X Powers of 10. It was pretty dramatic storytelling and pretty exciting. And, and then here we are. So people who had lapsed came back, enjoyed it for a little bit, and maybe that's why the current Krakoa era kind of hits harder and hurts more, because a lot of people did come back to the comics, and only to have it sink, back down further from where it was. So I think there's a little bit of that going on. But anyway, thanks for pushing through. Find something you enjoy. There is good stuff, and don't settle for cracks. I think if you find yourself desperately searching for crumbs that fall through the cracks, stop searching. There's not enough crumbs that fall through those cracks to make it worth it. There's other bigger places to go to get a full meal. Thanks for listening.